Okay, I don't see. Alex, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, I don't see you for some reason, Jamil.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. All right, now we're in. Now we're in sync. Thank
Hi.
you for coming. Thank you for being here. This is our monthly Sunday media chat put on by the South Florida chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists. This is actually a continuation of a two-part series that I started actually back in March. We didn't do one last month, called Anchors Away. And the two anchors we had on before were your colleagues over at 10, um, Calvin Hughes and Mr. Eden. Excuse me, couldn't even get her name out of my brain. Chekhov, rather.
Check.
And that
Yeah.
turned out well. But I wanted to get the weekend anchors and the week morning anchors. And unfortunately, I actually thought that Kendis Gibson, who is relatively new over at Channel 4, was going to be able to join us, but maybe he'll come on as we are here in progress. But and I understand this month is your fourth year here.
Yes, I'm celebrating 4 years. I believe at the end of next week.
Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting, interesting. How have you liked it in those 4 years you've been here?
It's been great. A lot of stories to cover, a lot of news to get to. It's never a dull moment in this market. So it's been really good. And for me, South Florida is home. So, I'm surrounded by the majority of my family. So it's been really good.
Good. I'm sure you're glad to be back home.
Yes.
Well, that's good. That is great to hear. Um, tell me about your start. Why journalism?
Well, I'm a performing arts kid by heart. In terms of when I started my career, not my career, my life. I was always interested in theater, so singing, acting, dancing. But then, to kind of what blossomed from that is the art of storytelling, and I loved that. I was always very inquisitive as a kid. And then, as you get older and you mature, as does your desires and what you want to focus on. So I loved following current events. So it was a little mixture of everything that I loved that kind of just blossomed this career that I'm in now, which is journalism. I decided actually early on, before I finished up high school, that I wanted to go into this profession and I wanted to be a TV news journalist. And so when I went to college, I majored in television film production. So I also like behind the scenes work a lot as well. And I went to St. John's University in New York. Graduated. I held down a few internships while I was in college. I started off as a production assistant at WNYW Fox 5 News in New York City, where I ran scripts to anchors and I put together a reel. I would go in on the weekends. I would get paid no money, but it was the best time. Still one of my favorite chapters ever. I was there for just under a year, and then I went off to be a video reporter for a small paper in Levittown, Pennsylvania called the Bucks County Courier-Times. I actually, they were launching a video reporting. They were launching a video reporting channel on their webpage, and I was, one of the first people to come on board. I was just so excited to just get on camera. So I did that, and I wrote for the paper at the same time. Went from there to Huntsville, Alabama, because that paper was owned by a company called Calkins Media. They owned a few different television stations, and one of them happened to be in Huntsville, Alabama. I was very, very eager to get my start in terms of getting in front of the camera in TV news, and so it was just a perfect combination. I was already there. They had an opening. I applied for it, and they said, okay. So I got that, and I was there for about a year. And then I got an opportunity in Birmingham, Alabama, to be a nightside reporter there. So I was there for about a year, and then I got the opportunity while I was at the station to elevate into their weekend morning show. So I was the weekend morning show anchor there. And then 3 years in Birmingham led me to my current opportunity now, which is at WPLG Local 10 here in Miami. So that's my story in a nutshell, in about 90 seconds or less. I might have gone over it there, 90 seconds, but.
Well, that's good. I have one question, and this is going to be a tease to you. Why St. John's rather than Columbia?
Oh, well, because, I mean, St. John's University, I mean, Columbia is great, but doesn't compare. You know,
I disagree with you. That's okay, because I'm a graduate. I'm a graduate at Columbia. So
okay, so we're rivals. Listen, it's a fabulous institution. Don't get me wrong. However, go Red Storm.
Well, you know, I don't complain too much. I mean, wherever you go to college and you graduate from is important. And St. John's is a very good university.
Yeah.
And I can say that because I'm a native New Yorker. So I kind of know about both. And it's funny because when I first started out in college, I started out at a historical black. At that time, it was an institute. It wasn't even a college or university. It was an institute at Tuskegee, and the major was pre-veterinary medicine. And I switched over to communications from that, and had to go back up to New York and graduated from Seton Hall, which is right across the river. They have a very good communications program as well, and then went to Columbia and finished out. And I'm kind of glad that I did, because their master's program is only a year, and you're in and you're kind of in, and you're kind of out, and then you can kind of get on your your way. I noticed by reading your bio that you had gone to both Cushman and the New World School of the Arts. Why didn't you do anything in the arts?
I didn't do anything in the arts because I love the arts, but it just wasn't something that I really wanted to continue on into adulthood. So that's really the simplest answer. I wasn't passionate enough about it to really want to do it, for the rest of my life. I have so many friends that did go off and pursue it. I have friends that have been on Broadway, on TV shows, I mean, you name it. And it's kind of like journalism, which is, it's passion driven, and you've got to be willing to take the knocks. You've got to be willing to be down sometimes more times than you're up. And isn't that the case in terms of what it is we do as journalists all the time? And so I respect that profession so much, and I respect it, and I knew it so much. Again, you mentioned, going to the World School of the Arts. I mean, that's what I did for 18 years of my life. I lived, breathed the arts. So I knew what it took to really go after it. And I knew that my heart just wasn't in it enough to go after it like that, which, it was perfect, because through going through that, I realized where my heart really was, and that was in journalism. And so that's why in high school, I knew that this is what I was meant to do.
I think passion for your profession is important.
Yeah. And it's important, and it's a privilege to be able to work and actually love what you do. Because there are a lot of people who have jobs every day that, I mean, the paycheck's very important, don't get me wrong, and it's for you, me, anybody, you got to be able to pay your bills, but to be able to work, pay your bills, and love going into work almost every day, it still works. So there's some days you're more intense than others, but to be able to have that, I mean, that in and of itself is a privilege, because a lot of people don't get that opportunity. So, I'm really grateful.
Well, then it becomes, if you get the passion for it, then it doesn't really become work.
Huh?
If you have the passion for it, then it really doesn't become work. I mean, it's work in a sense, but in the overall, it's not really work, because you enjoy going in.
Exactly.
Rather than I gotta make that dollar so that I can survive. I mean, yes, we all have to make that dollar so we can survive, but having the passion makes it even better.
Yeah.
Did you aspire to be an anchor?
It's an interesting question. Yes and no. I knew I wanted to grow in this profession. I knew I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to be, I wanted to be passion driven. I think that early on in this profession, you know, you look and you say, you know, for me, it was, first of all, let me take it back. For me, it was all about reporting at first. I just wanted to get on camera. I wanted people to tell stories. I wanted people to get into the community, and I wanted to report. And from that, I think, you know, I realized that there were other, you know, seats, if you will, other hats that I would like to wear. So I think that when you're younger in this profession, you look at anchoring as like, wow, if I could ever get, you know, if I could get to that point, you know, that would be amazing. I remember sitting and saying, when I was filling in one time in a morning show, the first time ever anchoring in Birmingham, and the anchor at the time, you know, said to me, do you want to anchor? And I said, wow, you know, I mean, that would be just amazing if I ever got to that point. So I think part of me says, you know, yes, but the other part of me really was just about really the storytelling aspect, and wherever that led me, I was fine with. I mean, you know, when I was in Birmingham, you know, I was anchoring there, and it was great. And when I first got to Miami, you know, I came as a reporter, and that was not, it wasn't a feeling of, oh my goodness, you know, I want to anchor. Oh my goodness, you know, I can't leave this market, you know, in Birmingham and go somewhere else, you know, and not be an anchor. It wasn't really about that. It kind of just all just fell into one. So here I am.
Well, that's great. Anchor or reporter, which is better?
I don't really know if I can answer that question, which is better. And honestly, because they're two, you work different muscles in a lot of ways. I love reporting. I love being out in the field. I love talking with people. I love the raw realness of being a reporter. But on the other hand, you know, I love anchoring, right? Like anchoring, when you think about just the simple word of anchor, you know, it is to stabilize everything. And I love that part of it as well. I love the dynamic of playing off of a co-anchor. So they're two totally different muscles, and it's hard for me to say which one I think is better. Because it's just different. I feel like asking, like, in my opinion, for me, asking, you know, if I like an anchor reporter better is almost like asking if you have two kids, like, which kid do you like more? It's like, well, I love them both. They're both very different. You know, they both have their idiosyncrasies and, you know, their gifts and their curses. But, you know, no, but I do love both.
Well, that's excellent to hear. How do you feel about anchoring on the weekends? Do you aspire to try to get, and this is teasing, but do you aspire to try to get Calvin's job at some point?
Excuse me. No, I do not aspire to get Calvin's job. Only Calvin could do his job. But no, I don't aspire to. I've never really aspired to like have anybody else's job or to be in anybody else's position. I just, you know, hope to just be the best version of myself on air, and wherever that leads me is where it will lead me. And so, and it goes back to kind of what you were saying about the anchor question. It's just every day when I go on camera, whether I'm in, you know, out in the field or anchoring, I'm just going to bring hopefully the best version, the most impactful version of Alex Finnie. And if that happens to lead me behind a desk for weekends, if it happens to lead me out, you know, lead me to the field 5 days a week, I'm fine with that. I just want to, you know, be the best version of me.
Sounds good. Sounds definitely good. Excuse me. To me, your best time anchoring. Well, what's the top story you think you've dealt with since you've been anchoring?
Oh boy. Okay, so it's a toss-up. Well, obviously we're coming out of COVID, so that's been a top story for 2 years. But putting that aside, I would say it's between the Surfside condo collapse that we had last year.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That was up there in terms of eyeball coverage. But I think that the coverage I remember the most, the absolute most, was when we had the protests. What are we in now? 2022, so 2020. The Black Lives Matter protests, and, you know, shutting down streets and tear gas and the highways. I remember my co-anchor and I, Andrew Perez, we were on the desk for about 10 hours. And that was my first time in this market doing that type of coverage. And I remember it just being a mixture of, I hope I get this right in terms of being an anchor. I hope I'm informing properly. But then there was the the part of being a Black person, being a Black woman, having a Black father and a Black brother. So it was a mixture of different emotions that were swirling into one. And I think that those 10 hours for me, even though we were on air for 10 hours, it passed by in just a matter of just felt like minutes. And we were back to back like that Saturday and Sunday. So probably maybe the toss-ups are between 10, 15 hours on air. But I think that that's probably the coverage that I remember the most as being like the most impactful on the desk.
What next for you?
What's next?
Yeah.
I don't know. Stay tuned.
Do you think you'll be here for a long period of time?
One thing that COVID has taught me, and that this industry has taught me, and it's crazy to say, and I'm very proud to say that this year I've been in this industry for a decade. And so one thing that this has taught me is it's very hard to plan. I could sit and say that I will be here for the next 10, 20 years, and that may or may not happen. But I think that's why, the best thing to do, and the older I get, is I understand, you just kind of got to go with the flow. And, you can loosely plan, but the best plan that you can do, my father tells me all the time, is like, you just take things one step at a time. You focus on becoming the best version of yourself every day, and the opportunities will come. And so that's kind of the word that I live by. And, that's why I say, stay tuned. We'll see, But I have to say, as of right now, I'm pretty happy.
That's good to hear. And I'll relate a longevity story, not here in Florida, but the ABC affiliate in Houston, KTRK Channel 13, until maybe 7 or 8 years ago. An anchor by the name, and he was the evening anchor, by the name of Dave Ward, I think was the longest serving anchor probably in the country. Dave was on that station 50 years. And I thought that was quite unusual in a relatively major market. And Houston's a pretty solid market. I mean, some of the smaller markets probably have anchors that have been there a long period of time, but normally, in the major markets, the anchors tend to change a little bit. But I just thought that was quite unusual that this guy had been there, 50 years, and only because I think his health was beginning to become a little bad did he decide to retire. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that you're going to be here 50 years. I mean, but that would be nice since you are home. But what can you tell an aspiring student, number one, or an aspiring journalist that started out like you started out? What's the best thing they can do at this particular moment to advance their career?
I would say flexibility is key. And it's like almost what I'm going to say. It's like a good pantsuit that never goes out of style, and that is say yes to mostly everything, And I say mostly everything because you got to leave room for things that you just shouldn't be doing or you can't do. But yes is really important when you're first starting out, because through the yeses, what I found in life, through the yeses and the nos, you start to find your groove, But a lot of times putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations, dare I say, even sometimes walking in imposter syndrome at times, and that's a very real thing, allows you, because you can tell, and imposter syndrome is something where it still happens. Do I still have times when I'll go through imposter syndrome? Absolutely. But you can tell when something is not meant for you. But I feel as though a lot of times being able to get to that point of knowing when something is not meant for you, it comes from you having walked through it enough to be able to tell, yeah, I tried this and it's great, or it sucked. This is not me. And so now I need to maybe shift gears a bit. And I think that honestly comes from just saying yes a lot and getting out there, not being afraid to take chances, afraid to take risks. It's funny because I was just in New York City last week, and one of my best friends, we were talking, and I love New York City. And I was telling her, I said, she's like, oh my God, I would love if you lived back here. And I said, I love the city. And I said, but I remember that I didn't leave New York, in that moment with her, I didn't leave New York because I hated it. I didn't leave New York because I was like, I need to go off and try, I want to live in LA, I want to live somewhere else. I left New York to start my career and to move to places where I knew nobody, and then to move to Alabama for 4 years where it was like, I was like a fish out of water. But those opportunities and that willingness just to say yes and go and see led me to where it is I'm meant to be, at least I could say for now, and that is Miami. But none of that would have happened if I was just so stuck in this feeling of, I love New York, and I love the big city, the flashing lights, all my friends are here, this is where I want to stay. I wouldn't be where I'm at now. And through some of those yeses, I was able to realize what wasn't going to work for me anymore, what was. But it all starts with putting yourself out there and just going after it and not being afraid to fail, because failure is inevitable. It's kind of what you do with that failure that will, write your next step.
Well, what is the old saying? We fall down, but we get back up.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's true. How did you find Birmingham?
I didn't. I was in Huntsville, and I was just posting clips online. Like it was, I was excited to just get my YouTube page going. I would post clips, and the news director at the time, I worked for CBS 42, happened to find my reel and reached out to me, and that's how that came to be. Now, when I was in Huntsville, I wasn't under contract. So I was free, as contracts work. There was no 1, 2, 3, 4 year, however, the station works it out. It was just you work here until you don't anymore. They didn't realize that at the time, because when I went in to give my notice and say, I got a new job, I remember my news director said, well, what about your contract? I said, I didn't have one. So we kind of laughed about that moment. But that's how that came to be. A news director, my news director at the time, he found my clips and said, are you interested? And that's how that happened.
How'd you find? And I know Betty does this obviously for a living as the meteorologist, but how did you find covering Hurricane Michael?
Oh boy, no, I that was a lot of. It's weird to say fun, because a lot of lives were destroyed and homes were destroyed, but so fun's probably not the appropriate word, but it was definitely an exhilarating feeling. A lot of journalists and a lot of TV news journalists, certainly reporters, that adrenaline rush is kind of what fuels us. So it was, I remember just we were outside, I was hearing, it might have been Betty, it might have been Luke, I'm not exactly sure who in my ear, just talking about, where the storm is, where it's moving. I was explaining the destruction, the damage, what we were saying. It all blurs together. We lost power. We were, eating or not eating, I don't know, just as long as we had water. But it was just full of adrenaline. We were there for about a week, and I was with my photographer, longtime WPLG photographer, Donnie Dallas. And he really broke me into traveling and reporting on stuff like this down here, because I was fairly new when I got down here. But I remember that just being an adrenaline-filled time. I remember there were moments of sadness, like when you're done with the initial hurricane. Okay, oh my goodness, Category 5. You're done with that. Then the aftermath hits, right? And then that's when that wave of sadness kind of rolls in as you're reporting too, because you're realizing that people's real lives and their homes have been uprooted, and whereas you get the chance to leave and go head back down south to Miami.
Right.
These are people's real lives. So that emotionally, I remember being like a wow, eye-opening moment. But overall, yeah, that coverage was crazy. It was a Category 5 storm, so of course it's gonna get crazy.
Have you ever thought about going national?
Yeah, I think that, I'm not gonna speak for everyone, but I know that most journalists, at least those that I'm friends with, I mean, of course that goes through your mind. How far do you want to go? How far do you want to push it? Do you want to, go big national? Do you want to go big locally? Do you want to, parlay what you're doing into something else? I mean, all those questions, they pop up, and so I would be remiss if I didn't say that. Yes, of course, I'm all about, just seeing, where this industry takes me. This is a long road. I'm trying to be in this industry for a hot minute. It's a long road. So, yeah, of course that's popped into my mind.
What is making me sort of proud is that what is it? Marcus Bohr, I believe, is the correspondent's name, who's over in Ukraine. Never seen them do that before. Use somebody of color in a situation where basically there are no people of color. And I think I think that brother has done a yeoman's job in a very difficult area to actually report in. Is that something that you would want to take on?
I don't know. That's a question, stay tuned. I feel like that's one of those things where, yeah, I don't really have an answer for that. No.
I hear you. But it is nice to see that the guy is doing the job. I mean, very important that those of us that are of color get assignments that are normally not within our particular sphere. Any thoughts on perhaps once you get tired, quote unquote, of doing this, of going into PR?
Oh no, I haven't thought about that. I'm not there. No.
Okay, and I'm not trying to push you that way. I'm just asking that question because I'm finding more and more.
That's a fair question. I mean, I have friends that have gotten out of the business. I have friends that are thinking about getting out of the business. I have friends that have gotten out of the business and are back in the business.
Right.
That's a fair question. And PR usually is, that route that a lot of people that have been in the business and get out, that's usually the route they take, PR and marketing. So yeah, that's absolutely a fair question.
Ever thought about becoming a news director?
No, why? Is there a job? No, I'm kidding. No, you know what? No, I haven't thought about it. But, kind of keeping with that theme of, a news director, someone that's at the helm, that's really making decisions in the newsroom in terms of stories and what matters. One thing I will say, and I'm not ashamed to say it, that is so important to have people at the top that understand the importance of telling all stories and understand the importance of collaboration and the importance of saying, you know what, there are things that I know, but there are things that others might know better. So I think that it's important to have a news director, have a general manager, whatever the case may be, that is open and continues to be open to bringing in different opinions and different perspectives on things, because that's the people that we are serving. We are not, only serving a white or black world. We are serving an inclusive world, and I think that our newsroom needs to be indicative of that as well.
Well, you definitely need folks that have that perspective, come from that perspective, and also have people that are on the other side of the coin, be willing to listen and realize that there is more than one story. There's more than one way to tell it, and there's more than one culture around that has their own particular, their own particular story. So that I think is vitally important. And I think this town is doing better about doing that. I know 10 seems to be doing better about doing that. Definitely seems to be more of us added, at least in front of the camera. It would be nice to know that there are those more being added in the producer area and behind the camera, so that the community can be truly, diverse. I mean, you can
Right.
you can have a community that has various and sundry cultures, but it's not necessarily diverse in the story, in the storytelling. And I think Miami-Dade is getting there. At least it's gotten better in the some 37 years I've been here. So excuse me. Any parting words?
No, I mean, no, I mean, I know I'm speaking with, probably, so definitely some aspiring journalists on here as well. And, you know, this is a big umbrella, right? And honestly, I look at the whole umbrella of media, because that's what we are. We are part of the media umbrella. And there are so many ways, man. I look at where I was when I got out of school, and jobs that were available then versus jobs that are available now. There's so many different ways that you can storytell and you can be a journalist nowadays. I mean, we didn't have, streaming, back in my day. We didn't have streaming with Hulu and Netflix and all of this. It was brand new. Instagram was new when I was a senior in college. So, media is changing, and it's been changing so quickly, and there's so many different options that are now available. So that's why, I think that anybody that's looking to get in this profession now, TV news is great, but don't just look at TV news. Look at just, all the different options that are available. If you truly love storytelling, you truly love being a journalist and being out in the community, it doesn't always just have to happen on TV. Maybe for you it does, maybe for you it doesn't, but there are so many ways. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, just as the kids say these days, shoot your shot, go for it, see where you'll land. And then wherever you land first, you'll bounce into the next opportunity. I remember a mentor of mine, when I first got started in this profession, said, when you start, you apply for your first job. And if you do it right, you will hear as you move on in your profession about opportunities that may be available, and you'll be able to bounce up and bounce around that way. And it's so true. It's all about just getting yourself in the door first. That's the hardest part. The hardest part is getting yourself in the door. And then after that, the hardest part is staying focused, because this industry, another one of my mentors told me, and he's right too, this industry is like this. It's like
Exactly.
Right? Like,
exactly.
It's a rat race in the beginning, and you gotta get in that door. Once you're in that door, you work harder than everybody else, and you keep at it. And the opportunities through that hard work and through just that grit, the opportunities will come. And it doesn't get easier, but you start to learn your rhythm and your routine. And through it as well, you start to learn yourself, not just the reporter or the anchor or the producer. You start to, become Alex. Oh, I'm a newscaster. Instead of, I'm a newscaster, I'm Alex. I'm a newscaster.
Right.
So just have fun with it. Go for it.
Be yourself.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. Basically be be yourself. And it seems to be a combination also to of passion and toughness. I mean,
Yes.
this is not an industry that, you do a lot of cakewalking. And I mean, I don't get the impression on a lot of the reporters that I have seen would switch over to what is the entertainment TV side of the house. The more I see, the more I like the reporters that are there that are doing the hard, during the hard questions, during the hard stories. One last question.
Yes.
What do you think about Karen Jean-Pierre becoming the new press secretary?
What's that?
Well, what do you think about Karen Jean-Pierre becoming the new press secretary?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a big deal. I think everybody would say that it's unprecedented. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's huge. It's huge for women and women of color. And we'll see. It's a very tough job. It's a very, very tough job. But You know, I think she's perfect for it. You know, as they say, if not me, then who? So if not her, then who? I think that she's great, and so we'll see what happens.
I'm extremely proud of her, and I can tell you actually off camera the reason why there is a connection. So I really and truly hope that she does a very good job. I mean, the person that she replaced, Jen Psaki, seemed to do well.
Yes.
She restored some integrity to actually a position that had none over the last 4 years, and hopefully Karen Jean will be able to keep that going. Alex, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you.
It
Thank you
was
for
good to
having me.
good to have you. Yeah, it was good to have you on. Glad to see your perspective. Glad you're doing well. Glad that you're enjoying both anchoring and reporting. And
Yes,
keep up the good work. And at some point in time, I guess when school starts back up, if you have a chance, go to one of these schools that has a journalism program, and and impart your knowledge to folks to make sure that they understand what it is to be a journalist, period, whether you're an anchor or you're a reporter or a combination of both. I would encourage you to go over and hook up with Florida Memorial University, because they have a communications program, and their kids over there are doing quite well.
yeah.
So thank you much. God bless you. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye now.